once again, this is Mr. Drew. We will now be moving on our next topic, which is part of your examination. Your exam week is August uh, 6 to 11. So we need to find a day for that. So we are already doing the um, animal structure and function, which is also related to, oh, I can share it here. And then after that will be the human systems, so human body system. So, so for the animal structure and function, this is your learning module 10. And at the end of this module, you should be able to first describe the various, why is it 7? It needs to be 10. So you should be able to describe the various types of body plans that occur in animals. The second one is to explain the limits and animal size and shape. And then number third, detail the steps involved in digestion and absorption. And then fourth is to illustrate the system of body flow through the body. And five, determine the functions of the lymphatic system and how it can be compromised by the diseases like HIV. And lastly, enumerate the structures and functions of the excretory system. So I think for today we can only reach number third, and that is about digestion and absorption. Let me just uh, do that again. Mm, uh, how to do that one? Hold on a bit. It's not window. So I can actually reset it here. Okay, what if I want to share it? So hi Shara.
Put choppy po, sir.
Yeah, Shara.
Choppy po.
I am not saying anything pa kasi I'm trying to share my screen. Hold on a bit.
Sorry.
It's okay. Here ata. Let's see if it can open. Okay, so animal structure and its function. I don't. Hopefully, it will open. Can it open? I don't know.
Hilo ka talaga.
Hmm?
Yan! Yeah! Ganyan lang ako. Ganyan lang. Ganyan.
Hello?
Hello po.
Okay, I'll try again. I think it's my internet. Okay, anyway, if you will refer to the PowerPoint presentation that I have shared in our, oh, it's working now. Oh, there. So animal structure, and these are the learning objectives. And in here, can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes po.
Excellent. Okay. So the Arctic fox is an example of complex animals that has adapted to environment. How is Arctic fox adapted to its environment? Anyone raise your hand? How do you think the Arctic fox adapted to its environment? How do you think Arctic fox adapted to its environment? Anyone? MJ, what do you think? How can we say that Arctic fox adapted to its environment? MJ? Hello? Yes, MJ?
Ganun.
Sir, ako po. Nawala po yung signal ko. Sorry po. Sabi na po, yung ano po, yung special adaptation po ng Arctic
We cannot hear you.
harsh environment.
Can't hear you daw.
Bakit ganon?
Eto.
Hello po.
Yes?
So, Arctic foxes
Wala pa rin. Are you with Shara ba? Pag hindi wala. I cannot hear both. We cannot hear. Nan, how about Stella? Stella, paano nag-adjust ang Arctic fox sa kanyang environment? Stella? Lo, wala kayo lahat. Isabel? Isabel, paano nag-adjust ang Arctic fox sa environment niya?
Nag-a-adapt po yung body nila tuwing malamig po yung protection po.
Which is?
Yung thick seasonal coat for insulation.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So
There's
tawag
a
natin dun fur.
protection po.
Yeah. So they are surrounded by fur. It's double fur actually. Most of the animals that lives in the polar region, they have double fur. They also have fat around it, The fat, we know that that is a very good insulator. And then as you can see, its color white. It it can blend with the color of the snow, and that is being a predator. So that and that camouflage is used for hunting their prey. So that's how Arctic fox is adapted to the environment. Another is the size of its ear. So if you can see, the size of the ear of the Arctic fox is smaller, so that it can also contain its body heat. It has a black nose that can absorb heat when sunlight is available. And that's the same actually to other animals like camel in the desert. If you are going to study the structure of the camel in the desert, it has a slit nose. Yung nose niya parang slit lang siya. Why? So that it can protect its nose hole from sand during sand storm. It has a double eyelashes. That's to protect its eyes from the sun as well. The hoof of the camel, it is designed so that in a way that they won't sink. They have the and then a lot of things. They also store fats in their humps for stored energy, just in case there is a scarcity for food. So each environment they're in adapted to their each animals, they are adapted to its own environment. So let's go now for the body plans. So animal body plans follow set patterns related to symmetry. So they are asymmetrical, radial, or bilateral in form. When we say asymmetrical animals, these are animals that has no pattern. They don't have symmetry. So example of that is the sponge. If you see a sponge in the ocean, that is a good example of a symmetrical animal. Next is the radial symmetry. These are the animal that has an up and down orientation. So any plane cut along its longitudinal axis through the organisms produces equal halves. So it's radial symmetry. This one is an example of it. And lastly is the bilateral symmetry. Whatever is on one side, it has the same on the other side. Like this goat has a bilateral symmetry because it has left and right foot, left and right ears, left and right eyes as well. It's bilateral. Okay, limits in animal size and shape. So we need to remember that animals, they have their own limitations. So there are things like animal evolve in a way, uh, how they look right now, how they evolve about their shapes and their sizes. And that is all because of survival. We need to understand that the evolution, the reason why animals evolve from the past up to right now, and that is all for survival. Survival of themselves, presence, and the survival of their own kind in the future. Because evolution only happens when the organisms that survive can reproduce. Kung yung animal cannot reproduce, walang evolution na nangyari doon. Because the reproduction of its own kind is what um, is how they can pass the traits that they accumulated over time to their offspring. So these are the maximum speed of animals and then marine. Okay, question here. How do animals survive? Well, we all have our own way of survival. And one is, of course, very important is the source of energy. So all living organisms need nutrients to survive. For plants, for them to survive, they make their own food through the process of photosynthesis. So they produce glucose and store it for energy. For us, we need to consume other organisms. And that is possible because of a system called digestive. So all organisms, like for example, animals, we have our own way to digest or process our food. So when we say digest, this is when we process all the raw materials that we are ingesting. Lahat ng kinakain natin, pinaprocess natin inside of us. And the system that is in charge of that is the digestive system. So we are actually classified into following categories based on how we consume. So if an organism is called herbivores, these are the organisms that eat plants. Okay. And then when we say meat eaters, we call them carnivores. And then if this organism eats plants and animals, both plants and animals, we call them omnivores. Omnivores, same as human, because we eat vegetables, we also eat meat. So, why do we need to digest food that we are consuming? It is because the food that we ate is actually so big. The molecules there are so big, the compounds that makes that food. So for us to use those raw materials that we are eating, we need to chop it into a smaller pieces. So that's where the enzymes and all the things that the digestive tract is doing is very important. Okay, now there are organisms that have one gastrovascular cavities. So these are the organisms that has only one opening. So their mouth is also their anus. So their mouth, it is where they eat the food, and then it's also their anus. This is where they excrete waste materials. For human kasi, we use our mouth for ingesting food kapag kumakain tayo. But when we excrete waste, either we use our anus for that, or we pee. That's a part of the excretion. Okay. So another is something interesting are the birds. So we know that birds do not have teeth, so they cannot really chew food that they are eating. They just swallow it, and then it goes to their stomach. That's why, actually, if you notice, the birds, when they're eating food, they also eat pebbles, small, maliliit na bato. They also ingest small pebbles. Kasi yung bato na yon, siya yung tutulong sa chan nila para so it can break yung food na nilunok nila. Kasi nga, they don't have teeth. They cannot chew. Hindi silang ngumunguya. Nilulunok lang nila lahat. So kapag lumunok sila ng pagkain, naglulunok rin sila ng maliliit na bato, and the stone actually helps break down the food that they just ate. Yan yung mga birds. Okay? All right. So the digestion It's 5:51 now. Digestion breaks down food so that nutrients can be absorbed and move into our blood. So nutrients are very important. We help them for cell repair, cell development, growth, like that. So it is important that we take what we need and we also process it inside of that. Now there are two kinds of digestion. One is what we call the mechanical digestion. Ito yung pagnguya natin ang pagmix and pang-kern. Yun yung mechanical. But when we say chemical digestion, this is when we break down food using chemicals. This is where the enzyme comes in. So ang enzyme, it's a kind of protein that speed up the rate of chemical reaction in our body. They are actually called catalysts. Catalyst means speeding up things. So these are the organs in our digestive system. Of course, it starts with our mouth, it goes to our esophagus, and then from the esophagus, it goes to our stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, and then after that, the waste can be stored first in the rectum for a while, and then it goes out through our anus. I just want to mention about in our mouth. Our mouth actually does mechanical digestion. Ito yung gamit natin yung tongue and teeth para i-chew yung mga pagkain that we are eating. At the same time, it actually does chemical digestion sa mga glucose, for example, carbohydrates na kinakain natin. So the carbohydrates that we are eating like rice, bread, um, pasta, kapag kinain mo yon, habang ninunguya mo siya sa bibig mo, you're actually also digesting it chemically. Because our mouth contain an enzyme called alpha amylase. So this is the kind of enzyme that digests or breaks down glucose. So sa bibig pa lang natin, nadadigest na ang mga kanin at mga other carbohydrates. And then it will continue to digest in our small intestine. So the esophagus is what connects your mouth and your stomach. So when it contracts, it actually forms a wave. The muscle forms a wave, and then the food moves. And this movement is what we call peristalsis. So peristalsis, that's the movement of muscles in our digestive tract. So it can go to where sections in our digestive tract that where the food can be processed or digested. Okay, and then of course we know that our stomach contains acid and also the acidic lipase. When you say lipase, this is the enzyme that breaks down protein kapag lipase naman until it goes to our small intestine. So after the stomach, it goes to the first part of the small intestine. Ang tawag natin doon ay duodenum. So in the duodenum, this is where they can get bile and other digestive juices. So ang bile pala, by the way, it breaks up the large fat particles and similar to the way detergent breaks up grease. Di ba kapag naghuhugas tayo ng pinggan, ginagamit natin yung mga detergent. Ano yung detergent kapag nalagay mo siya sa mantika, nagbi-break yung mantika. So we also have that inside of us. We call it bile. And the color of that is yellow. Kaya kapag tumae tayo, it's yellow. That's because of the bile. So the wall of the small intestine has many ridges and folds that are covered with the finger-like projections called villi. So villi, it's there for largest surface area and surface area, and it secretes mucus as well. Yeah, secretes mucus. Yeah. Okay, and then last in your large intestine. Large intestine, this is where water reabsorb, and then and in this part of our digestive tract, it actually contains many bacteria, and these bacteria are very important. They are fed on undigested material like cellulose, and this is them making vitamins like vitamin K and two vitamins, vitamin B. So vitamin K, they are needed for blood clotting, and then the two B vitamins, niacin and thiamine, are important for our nervous system and for body function. So bacterial actions also convert bile pigments into new compounds. So the breakdown of the internal materials by bacteria produces gas, and that's where we fart. Yun yung utot natin. Okay? All right. So that is the digestive tract. We will continue the circulatory system next time. Do you have questions so far? None. So it's 5:58. So that is introduction of the animal structure and then system that we have in organism. Thank you very much. See you again. Goodbye.
Thank you po.
Thank you.